Hello. Welcome to the big show. I'm your host, Steve Stacks, and we got quite the video for you today. Diddy's team has now filed for a mistrial for the third time as of June 9th. So let's dig right into the facts. So as you've heard already, Diddy's team has now filed for a mistrial for the third time. This is not a surprise to me, as I feel like, you could have filed for that mistrial, within after the first witness or first victim. So like all along, I've been saying Diddy's alibis would set him free. So let's talk about the D.I. to the double D.Y. case. Let's dig into the facts. There's been sex for days on days in a row. So how come we never hear anything about hospital visits? I'm sure Cassie would need and require, a hospital visit if I don't want to talk to, explicit right now. But you can get what I'm trying to get at. And also, there has never been any sexually transmitted diseases. Sounds like a lie again, right? If you're having this much sex with this many strangers and apparently no condoms, I'm sure there's going to be sexually transmitted diseases, and they haven't brought that up, and there's been no doctors to verify and confirm that there has been. So that seems a little strange. Now, I think I've heard that Cassie did make a visit to a psychiatrist or something to that nature. But again, I just want to state, if you're so traumatized by all this for 10 years straight, wouldn't you require some type of psychotherapy and, mental health help, right? It just doesn't make sense. A lot of what Cassie said doesn't make sense. And I'm sure Diddy and his team would have definitely caught her in some lies when they get to, bring up Diddy's alibis against her stories, and they didn't really get to cross her too much, and they wanted to cross-examine her later on in the trial, and I think the judge said no to that. But they could have probably roasted her pretty good. Another thing here, so Cassie and friends here do so much drugs, but they're able just to walk away from it every day. Most people die after a day of hard drugs, So what makes them so invincible? If you're doing all these drugs, how are you still, able to survive and live? You should be dead from an overdose. And again, these people are superhuman, superheroes, and they can put up with all this stuff, right? Let's see, what else here? Also, if you're drinking that much alcohol, poison, okay, on a daily basis, it's called alcohol poisoning. When alcohol takes over the amount of blood that you have in your bloodstream, right? That's called alcohol poisoning. And you can die from that as well. So you've never made a ER visit from a alcohol poisoning event, I don't get it. Nothing adds up from these witnesses and victims. So there's many reasons I believe Cassie would be lying here. One reason that stands out the most is that she does not own her masters to each of her songs. So this here is like a revenge tactic, right? you don't give me my rights to my songs, and I'm gonna sue you, or I'm gonna do this to you and do that to you. And that's what I believe is happening here, right? I also believe that Diddy will countersue Cassie, and for more than the $20 million that he had to pay her already. So he's gonna get that $20 million back, and he's probably gonna sue her for a little bit more than $20 million due to all the defamation and what else? Slander, character assassination. So he definitely will be suing Cassie and probably a lot of the other witnesses. Not to mention, he could probably sue the government as well, right? For false imprisonment, stuff like that. Here's a really big issue that I have with Cassie, okay? So if you're a victim for 10 years, how easy would it have been for her to plant a hidden camera and catch him in the act? So, if you're so traumatized and you want to get back at him and maybe have evidence against him, and hold stuff against him, then why not plant a hidden camera? And you could have had so much more evidence to back up your stories. But instead, we have to go by her word. And, to me, the best evidence is video or images that can prove it, and she just does not have enough of that right now. Because it would have been shown. This is day 13? What are they showing? A sex party? They're not showing anything that relates to Rico, and that she could have easily recorded something very illegal that he's doing, and there's none of that, right? So just some facts here. Combs has had a successful career. Some may say a very successful career. And almost a clean record sheet, right? Criminal record sheet. He has been a philanthropist, and these will show the courts who this man really is, or hope that they can do so. The jurors can't look at these facts any other way, or twist these stories any other way. If you donate and create charities and are helping out the community, there's no way of twisting that, okay? So how can you be a criminal organization and hold charities or create charities and donate to, your community and stuff like that and help out? It doesn't add up, right? He also has never incriminated himself through text or emails yet. So they've looked at a bunch of his emails and text messages, and none of them have incriminated himself. So you can imagine the amount of text and emails that they've gone through already, and not one of them has said or proven him like extremely guilty, or they have word for word him saying, I am bringing guns across the borders and I am doing this, there's none of that. So either he's really good at hiding things, but he would have slipped up in 10 years. He probably would have slipped up at least once, right? For this case to go Cassie's way, you would have to ignore a lot of the good things about Diddy to convict this man, right? Which is not going to happen. This guy, very successful businesses, philanthropist, helps out his community, does a lot of stuff, for his community. So just those things alone. Then he might even call up his own, witnesses or people on his side to help his character in court, right? So here's something that doesn't look good on Cassie. When you file a civil lawsuit before a criminal, that looks very suspicious, okay? So you had the opportunity to file a criminal charge, right? But you chose to go civil. That means you're in it for the money, That's what it looks like. That's what it tells us. There's no other way of looking at that, right? You could have even did them at the same time, possibly. I don't know. I'm pretty sure you could do them at the same time. But you went after the civil first and then criminal, which does not look good for Cassie and her friends there. And then to top it off, apparently she was not rich at the time. So you're filing civilly for all that money and you're not rich. So it doesn't look good. So I think the courts are being, or the judge is not being very fair to Diddy. So you're trying to tell me now Diddy's being warned for nodding or smiling or smirking or whatever he's doing. Like, what is he supposed to do? Not blink an eye? Like, you gotta allow this person to be human, right? If you hear false things about yourself that people are trying to accuse you of, you're gonna nod your head. You know, he's probably not even looking at the juror. So there's no real evidence that he's influencing, right? That's the whole allegation here, is that he is influencing the jury. So no juror has come to the judge and said, "Hey, he's changing my mind, judge." No, they haven't done that. It's just the judge assuming, right? Concluding that, oh, he has altered their perception. He has changed their mind. That is not true, right? He might just be like shaking his head. And if you look at the room, they're all kind of staring at each other. It's a box and they're all facing inward. So how stupid does that look? You know, it looks absolutely stupid if you ask me, okay? This judge is trying his hardest, you know, to not be on Diddy's side here, and it's very obvious. And there's also been the judge warning for, I think it was Mia, not to even write anything. So you definitely can't snap a photo or do any of that. But, you know, he was even ruling that there is no writing notes, jotting notes during this Mia, you know, witness stand on the stand. So I don't know what's up with that one. Yeah, here's another problem I have. So they're trying to say he's being disruptive in the courts. Just like when we heard Diddy was being disruptive in jail. And there's no proof of that either, right? So they were saying when he was in jail, he was making phone calls and tampering with the witnesses or, threatening the witnesses and stuff like that. And he was making notes or something like that. I don't know. But like, if you got a guy locked up and you got cameras on him 24/7, please show us the videos of him being disruptive in jail, right? Your word doesn't mean nothing when you're talking about a person in jail who's monitored 24/7, okay? So I didn't believe that at all. You know, he's not disruptive in jail, and he's probably not being disruptive in the court. So, and there's no evidence of both of those things either, right? It's just the judge assuming, and in jail, there's no video evidence, right? So, when there should be. In jail, there's always should be video evidence. If you're saying, you know, he's stabbing somebody to death in jail, then show me the video, right? So they're trying to kick this guy, Diddy, out of court for his own RICO charge, which is like massive. That's like telling me, you know, there's going to be a murder trial and the defendant is not allowed to be in the court. Remind me the last time a defendant won a RICO or murder case without being present in the courtroom. Exactly. I'm saying this is definitely a tactic by the judge or the government, right? You have to allow the defendant to be present for his own demise, right? Or for his own trial. It just, you know, you would have to prove like serious facts that this person is being so disruptive, like he's yelling at the jurors, telling them, I'm going to get you if you don't, vote in my favor. Like that's the only thing. Or he's jumping over the table and he's like, running at people and stuff. Those are the only two things that are going to get you kicked out of court. Winking at somebody, nodding, that's not enough, right? So far, they say they've been able, and when I say they, it's like, channels like Nancy Grace or Sidebar, with that Jesse, like these guys are all biased, okay? So they're all trying to say that there's been two things that have been proven in the RICO so far. But I say that's false, okay? Those are people looking for things, right? I don't believe any have been proven, okay? So when you go to who's setting up these sex freak-offs and stuff like that, we still don't know who put in the call, right? It could have been Cassie putting in the call. So, and who flew them in or whatever, right? Like, did Diddy send his own private plane to pick them up? No. So how is that Diddy doing anything right there, right? Did Diddy tell these people to drive across state lines? I don't know. We don't know. There hasn't been any proof of that. So if you look at two sectors in the world that deal with these things, okay? These guys can all be charged with RICO as well. If you're going to charge Diddy with RICO, then these two sectors can also be charged with RICO too. So we're talking about the porn industry, okay? How many people do you think are making porn videos in the same city or state that they live in? So a big porn company definitely flies in porn stars from another state. So is that not the Mann Act right there? Is that not enough to get a criminal charge or a RICO charge or whatever, right? So they're allowed to cross state lines for a, what's it called? For a gross act or a nefarious act. Another occupation that can be tied or twisted into like a RICO charge would be a private eye, a PI, right? Private investigator. So I'm allowed to hire a private investigator and not catch a RICO charge. But if Diddy pays somebody off to go and follow Cassie, all of a sudden that's a RICO charge. Figure that one out, right? So Diddy's doing the same thing as a porn industry company, if he was even involved in asking for people to come across state lines and perform sexual acts, right? So, but the porn industry can. And if Diddy says, I want to go and follow that person and I'll pay you to go and follow that person, that's all of a sudden a RICO charge. But somebody who owns a private eye company, private investigating, company, then that's not a RICO charge for them. They're allowed to do it. Diddy's not allowed to do it. So in my eyes, it seems like a lot of people in this case and in the world, are allowed to get away with things, but Diddy's not, right? It just, to me, it doesn't fly, right? I'm sorry. Well, that's the end of this video. I hope you guys got a lot from it, and I hope you guys keep enjoying the trial. I personally think this trial won't even last another 10 days, okay? This is the third mistrial that they're trying to ask from the judge. I believe the judge has no other option but to throw this case out. Let me know what you guys think. Please hit the like and subscribe. It helps. Catch you guys on the next one. Stacks out.